It's ready to go. Let's go and see if these repairs have fixed our Audi S3 Quattro. Hello guys, and welcome back to the Volks Wizard channel for the first video of 2022. Happy New Year to everybody. Let's hope this year pans out better than the last two did, whether that be your finances, your physical health, or your mental health. And that's a big talking point at this time of year. It's a very hard time for a lot of people, and I hope on this channel we don't make it worse for people by showing stuff that you'll never afford or be able to do. We like to keep things real. Even my Club Sport I bought on PCP with no deposit. It costs about £450 a month. It's not cheap, but it's still an affordable way into a new interesting car. We also like to work on cars like this, so you can buy an S3 for £3.5 grand and it'll be a nice car to have. It will definitely lift your mood, and if it goes wrong, it's not particularly expensive to fix, as we're going to demonstrate today. Because when I introduced this car to the channel about 4 weeks ago, I demonstrated, I think, about 3 problems that were quite big problems that needed to be sorted out pretty urgently, and we're going to deal with them today for the princely sum of about £30 and a little bit of spannering that's well within the realms of a DIY person. And these kind of things lift my mood. The satisfaction from fixing a car like this myself, relatively cheaply, with not particularly a wide selection of tools, and within the realms of you guys, I'm sure, does really help me from a mental perspective. So let's get cracking and fix up the Audi S3 Quattro. Okay, well today guys, we've got a guest presenter. It's Toby the cat, who you might have seen on my Instagram a lot. He actually made it onto the Volks Wizard 2022 calendar. Do you want to talk about the parts we're going to fit to the S3? No, okay, I'll talk about the parts we're going to fit to the S3 then. So eBay isn't all good. There's some really dodgy things on there, but what it is good for is allowing enthusiasts like us to get good quality parts for their cars cheaply, quickly, and even delivered to their door. Now, I've got the 4 items here I'm going to fit to the S3. 2 of these were quite a bit more expensive from Euro Car Parts, and the other 2 bits I couldn't get from them anyway. So yeah, and these are good quality parts. These are probably the upper quality of what you'd get from Euro. So firstly, we have the thermostat. It's in a sealed box with a sticker on it made by Mailer. They're a very good aftermarket parts company, and it comes with it's a thermostat, Toby, right? Not Thermocat, it's a thermostat. It comes with a rubber seal, and this was delivered £7.76. £7.76. Euro Car Parts trade price, which is roughly the same as what you'd pay with one of their all year round sales, is going to be about £9, so cheaper. And then we have the coolant temperature sensor, which again is sealed. It's made by Febby Bilstein, which is a very famous aftermarket supplier, and it's in a little bag which I think is sealed. Comes with the washer and the clip. That's good. When you buy them from VW, you don't get those, you just get this, and they cost about 40 quid. This right here, £7.99 delivered from Euro. For their most expensive version, it would be about 20 quid. So yeah, you can't beat that. It's green, it's the right shape, which is square on one side, rounded on the top, so that's bang on. That's good. Dipstick, they don't even list. This was Febby Bilstein again, because you might remember it was broken. It was £8.97. Yeah, Toby. And finally, the other problem was the broken wiring on the N75 valve. Not something you get very easily. Even trying to explain that to somebody at Audi Parts to get that is tricky. This was off eBay. For 2 of them, it was about £8, so I've got a spare one should I need it. So yeah, about 30 quid in total to fix 4 problems with the dipstick, 3 of which are quite important because the thermostat wasn't warming up, which is bad for the engine. The coolant temperature sensor was misreading, which again is bad for the engine, and the N75 valve wasn't working, which I guess is bad for the engine as well, though it does protect it, but it means you're not going to get full power. So yeah, it's going to be much nicer to drive. 30 quid, and the labour is really easy, as I will show you right now. Okay, let's start off then by repairing the N75 boost control valve wiring while we've still got our hands clean. Now, you may recall that the wiring broke at the plug, and I did a temporary repair last time. Well, we're going to do it properly this time. We've cleaned up the wiring that's left from the car, and that's ready to be connected to this new plug. The only difference between this and the original one is that the wiring is a little bit thicker, but also it's a different colour. You've got yellow and green from the factory. Just remember which one goes where. So we're connecting red to yellow and black to green. We're going to connect using the splice, or they're called butt connector, heat shrink butt splice. I don't know where I got these from. They're not going to be expensive though, but have a look at that. And so what we do is we crimp, start off with the red, then just twist the wiring so it's nice and tidy, and then push that in and just crimp it. I'm just using some cheap pliers. I'm sure there's better stuff for this, but this does seem to work. Just one should do. Yep, that's pretty solid on there. That's good. And then I think we'll do this one on here as well while it's off the car. Again, just twist it so it's nice and tight. And you can actually see it go into the metal bit, which is crucial for the connection to be a good one. And then push it tight, not too tight. Again, we've got a really good connection there. I would normally have thought this would have been done with soldering, but VW Group recommend these particular connectors, which I'm sure I've had to use somewhere else in the past. Okay, so we're going yellow. Again, just twist the wiring. We're going yellow to red, like that. It is tricky to get room to work because this diverter valve vacuum hose is in the way, but it should be okay. That's our crimp for the yellow. Is it secure? Yeah, it is. So actually that feels a lot more secure than soldering, so maybe that's why. One more then. Green, again, twist it so it's tight. And that's going to black. Okay. So the original wiring is a little bit thinner, so it goes into the crimp connector a bit too far actually. So you've got to be careful you're not crimping plastic, just the internal wire. Oh. Now the special feature of these things is that they're heat shrinks, so you can probably do this with something else, but I'm using a heat gun. So what this will do is that it will warm up the plastic on the outside of the metal bit that you crimp and seal it together so you don't get water ingress. It's not exactly a mission critical part, the N75 valve. You're not going to break down if you do get water in here, but it's just nice to do a proper job. Okay, that's warm. Obviously be careful doing this because you don't want to melt stuff that's not what you're aiming at. Okay, actually it's really good heat shrink because it doesn't take a lot of heat. So that's just shrunk around the original wiring and the new bit, and we have proper watertight connectors. Now we need to feed all this into the original protective shroud. It's a little bit tight now because we've got the butt connectors on there, so we're just going to wrap some tape around it to protect it from the weather. Okay, that's the N75 wiring done then for £6.77, and we've still got a spare plug. Took probably about 10 minutes and didn't really need any special tools. Now we're going to get onto the coolant temperature sensor, which is very important for the running of the car because it's a bit like the choke on older cars. If it's not right, you overfuel or underfuel the engine, and that's not good for the engine at all. It's not good for your pocket either because the car will use more fuel. So for what cost, was it £8? I reckon you'd save that in fuel pretty quickly on this particular engine. Now it's located just down here under this breather, so I can actually see it. That's a good start. So let's just prepare the part then. The sensor is on its own in this bag, and here we have the the rubber O-ring, which is exactly how you'll imagine it. It is just a simple O-ring, but you know, when you don't have it and you need to order it from VW or Audi, it can be quite expensive. So that just goes on there, and that's the clip that locks in down there. So this could be quite easy, it could be a bit fiddly, but being able to see it is good. Now, a little tip, you can turn them around in their mounting even when they're still connected, because on this car the clip that you have to undo, which is one of those ones that you have to push down, press in and then pull out, that was in an awkward position, but I've turned it around now about 180 degrees and I should be able to undo it quite easily. He says, yep, that's off. Now we're going to lose some coolant here, so make sure you catch it and dispose of it in an environmental way. We're not going to remove the header tank cap because we don't want to allow gravity to make any more coolant leak out than is necessary. So let's just pull the clip. There we go, that's the clip out. We're not going to reuse that, so let's just put it there. And then let's pull, just pull gently on it, no, not even gently. Make sure the O-ring comes out with it. It came out separately with this one. So there you can see the old parts, and there's the new one. It's got a bit of oil on it from the breather, something we're going to need to look at in the future, but for now let's just get this in and get it done. We haven't lost a lot of coolant actually, which is good. The engine's stone cold, which obviously helps. Can go in any way round, but obviously check that the plug's wiring isn't under tension. Make sure it's pushed in all the way. So that's in, I can't push it down any further. We just need the new clip, which slots in. You can see a slot in its flange. That's the new one in. A bit of oil from my fingers on it, but that's new. So we know electronically that should do the job properly. Now, we just get the plug in. Yep, and then if you've undone any pipes from their clips, just push them back on. And that is that. So we can put this cover on now. So that's two jobs done really quickly. The next one though is a little bit harder. That's changing the thermostat. Okay, the thermostat resides behind a plastic flange to the right of the alternator. You can't see it from here because this trim is in the way, but the good news is it's the easiest thermostat to do, I think, on all the Golf-based cars, including Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3. Now, slight hiccup on this car is that this trim's held in by two bolts, and one of the bolts has rusted in place, but the good news is there is a get out. You can actually take the metal plate this trim sits on off the inlet manifold by undoing the, what I think are 5mm Allen bolts. The aircon pipes don't help, but there should be enough room, and then with that loose we should then have a clearer view of what we need to do. Okay, with the two bolts loose, we now need to get the plastic trim and the metal plate away from the inlet manifold. We've undone a plug for some sensor that's bolted to the inlet manifold. It's now really just clipped into the dipstick tube. We're going to replace the dipstick, but we don't want to break the tube, so let's just try and pull that out. Well, these things happen. We've broken the dipstick tube because it's fragile, so that's going to be another piece to order off eBay. Okay, I think we can just tuck that out of the way for now, and now we have clear view of the thermostat. Now the first thing we're going to do is remove the radiator bottom hose from the thermostat flange using these hose clamp pliers. They're about £8 off eBay, money well spent. You can do this with some water pump pliers, but this is much easier because you can lock it in place once you've released it. Okay, so the hose is released and we've just pushed it back on the plastic flange for now, so we can pull the hose off. This can be quite tight, just give it a wriggle up and down rather than just pulling straight, and pretty soon you'll hear the coolant come out, which it has. Some of it's still stuck behind the thermostat, so there's not a lot coming out as yet. And then with the hose off, we've got better access to the lower bolts. There are two 10mm bolts holding the thermostat flange onto the block. Okay, that's the flange that holds the thermostat We made life a little bit easier by undoing the 8mm nut that holds the alternator wiring in place, and we could pull that up out the way, gave us a clearer run to the tricky lower bolt. Now the thermostat is still stuck in the block because it's been in there for a very long time. We just need to ease it out with a screwdriver, at which point there should be a rather large gush of coolant. There we go. Make sure you get the O-ring as well. And there we have it. I think it's slightly wonky because the way I forced it out, but that's the thermostat. That is it's a genuine VW Audi part, so possibly even the original. Okay, all the coolant that's going to drain out has drained out, so we're just going to give the area where you mount the flange on the block a bit of a clean with some emery paper. Sandpaper will do, anything abrasive really, just to clean off any crud. Ensure the good seal with the new O-ring. Okay, and now on to reassembly. So we've lubricated the new O-ring with some coolant, and we just got to put this in first and then the O-ring on top. Okay, that's in place. Now we need to get the flange back on. It's probably easier to do the top bolt with your fingers, because then you can get this on without dislodging the washer. That's quite important, of course. So let's do that. We'll worry about the bottom bolt when we come to it. Okay, that's on finger tight. The flange is pretty much in place now, so nothing can move out of place. So hopefully your thermostat's in with the washer on top of it, nicely located, and the flange sitting on top of it trying to compress the O-ring as we tighten it up. So we now have the tricky bottom bolt. I'd love to be able to get it in there with my fingers, but I just don't think I can. Actually, can I? Come on. That's the tricky bit done. Now we can just get onto it and try and tighten it up. I'll just bring the camera down here so you can see what's going on, hopefully. So we're just trying to get this hose on to the pipe. That's good. There's a stop there, which it needs to get up to, so a bit more to go, a bit further to go. Yep, that's right up against it. So release our hose clamp pliers. Brilliant. Okay, that's all the repair work completed, though we do have two new problems. Firstly, we've got the bolt stuck in this piece that goes on the front of the inlet manifold. It's not essential to the running of the car though, so we can deal with that at a later date. The orange piece of plastic on there does remind us that we've also got a broken dipstick tube. I've just looked on the internet, I can buy one of those for £3.90 delivered, which isn't a big deal at all. We can worry about that later as well. We just need to block up the tube that goes to the sump with something so no oil escapes when we go for a test drive. Before we do that as well, we need to put some coolant in because it's lost quite a lot. I've filled it up to the max mark now. It will go down when we drive because it will just burp some air out of it. So yeah, it's ready to go. Let's go and see if these repairs have fixed our Audi S3 Quattro. We're looking at it for two things. Firstly, we want the coolant temperature gauge to move quite quickly, and we want it to get to 90 and stay there. I think that fault was the thermostat, but there was a fault code that related to temperature sensor as well. Both are pretty common, and I think both were in need of repair. But the one we're going to watch today while driving is the needle, because that's the thermostat. I've cleared any faults with VAGCOM. We'll see if there's any when we get back. The other fault is to do with the N75 valve. That's the boost control valve. It basically operates a turbo wastegate and helps manage the boost produced to be within the levels that the ECU wants, not too low, not too high. So repairing the wiring hasn't done anything mechanical, it's just meant the valve can operate correctly, which is probably the first time in ages, because as I said, when I first saw this car, touched the wiring, it broke, and when I first drove it, it had no boost at all. So we're heading for the open road. Now the needles move pretty quickly. It's about a mile till it started moving, and it's a pretty chilly day at 7 degrees, and it's heading for 90 now, so with a bit more speed we should get it warmed up. The oil's a bit warm, so we're above the sort of 50 mark, so we can give it a bit of welly now. And yeah, this is a stage 1 car. It should feel quick, and that feels quick, so I'm quite happy with the boost. So let's watch that gauge now and see what happens. And we're up to 90 already, so that's pretty good. When you actually spend a lot of time looking at data from VADCOM, you realise 90 on the gauge isn't exactly 90 all the time, because engines get hotter and colder like you would if you walked up a hill or walked down a hill, and these gauges have been mapped to show 90 when it's sort of 83 to 100 and something. The needle should never move to the right unless the car's got a fault, like the water pump's not working. It should never move to the left and get cooler unless something like the thermostat's not working and you're getting too much air, cooling air onto your coolant because the radiator's opening too early. So it's a much happier car now, and as an owner that makes me happier as well. It's not over fueling, it'll be better on fuel, it'll be faster. And with this stage 1 map, this car still feels modern day quick. All we need to do now then is get home and check that the fault codes have stayed off. Well, the good news is that the temperature gauge is staying resolutely at 90 degrees. There's a bit of slower driving between here and the dual carriageway that previously with the old thermostat was enough to see it start creeping to the left, but now the thermostat isn't faulty and isn't letting water get into the radiator too early. We're keeping the correct temperature, which is really good. Car will run better and last longer like that. All we need to do now is check for fault codes. We're looking for diverter valve codes, and we're looking for coolant temperature sensor related ones. Let's just check. Nope, there's nothing in there, no faults found. So that's really good news. This car is now 19 years old, so I think the fact we can say there are no fault codes in the engine at 19 years old is pretty good going. All it cost us was about £30. So guys, wishing you the best physical and mental health for 2022. There's no doubt about it, for a lot of people cars really do help their mental health, whether it's just enjoying driving them or fixing them, or even for me buying and selling them. They do make life a lot richer, and it'll be a real shame if in 2030 the cars that we have to buy don't evoke those same sensations. Anyway guys, thanks for watching this Volks Wizard video. If you've enjoyed it, please do give it a thumbs up. As ever, please do comment, please do share, please do subscribe. Got to get to 40k soon, and I'll see you for the next one very soon.